Hey everyone, welcome to Comic Book Women. Thank you, thank you. All right, stop. Tonight's show is going to be divided into two halves. For the first half, the girls and I will be interviewing artist Alice Barnes and author Jacob Murray about their upcoming book, The Eighth Immortal. It looks amazing. The second half of the show will be a spotlight to birthday girl Jenny Frison. Stay tuned. Thank you, thank you. All right, stop. Tonight's show is going to be divided into two halves. For the first half, the girls and I will be interviewing artist Alice Barnes and author Jacob Murray about their upcoming book, The Eighth Immortal. It looks amazing. The second half of the show will be a spotlight to birthday girl Jenny Frison. Stay tuned. Thanks. All right, guys, we are back. As I mentioned earlier, we have artist Alice Barnes and author Jacob Murray with us tonight. How cool is that? Both of the creators in the house. Let's get started. Okay. Jacob, Alice, welcome to the show. Thank you guys so much for coming out. We appreciate it.
Oh, our pleasure. Hello. Thank you for having us.
Yes,
Alice,
thank you so much.
It's so cool to have you guys on. I can't even tell you. We've never had an artist and an author at the same time. So this is a first for Comic Book Women.
Big deal.
All right. To kick us off, Jen has a question for you, Alice.
I was just really curious how you got into comics for art.
Okay, so I would say I've always loved Japanese comics or manga growing up, and I watch a lot of anime. And so I think from the time I was very small, I'd always wanted to draw comics. I studied art in college, and I worked in games for a little bit, but then like after a while, it just didn't feel like what I really wanted to do. So then I went back and just started like from the ground up, like just drawing comics. Cause like how do you get into comics without just sitting down and start drawing comics all day, every day until you're, good enough to like get published somewhere or, like enter some contests. There's actually a lot of contests online for up and coming comic artists to get recognition that way.
That's really cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we were checking out your website. It was You Darling, if I pronounce it correctly.
Oh, yes. So Yume Darling is my handle for like my fan artwork. So I guess I didn't even mention this, but I spent a lot of years as a convention artist. Like you go to comic cons, anime conventions, and you set up a booth, and like I would sell a lot of prints of fan art, just like popular anime or Western properties as well, just whatever I was interested in.
That's awesome. I can see here at academia.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that one, I'm pretty happy with that print.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And then through us meeting through Comic Book Women, I...
Oh my gosh!
So, this was like years ago. Donnie Bosco was doing an autograph signing, and he was selling these prints, and I'm like, oh, so cool. This is like SuperCon, or it was in Florida, like years ago. I'm like, wow, like happenstance, right?
That's awesome. So yeah, I remember Dante Bosco was at a convention I was selling at, and then because I found out he was doing autographs, so I went over to his table and like brought him prints like as a gift, just like, oh, I love your work as Zuko. And after that, he contacted me and asked if he could actually use the Zuko print for autographs. And I was like, it was such a exciting moment. And also another thing is that I really like the pairing of Zuko and Katara. As we know, that wasn't like the official pairing, but like Dante Bosco is a little like known for supporting that pairing as well online. So that was really exciting that he liked
you're
that.
talking Jen's language right now. She is a huge, is it manga or manga? I'm going to say manga fan.
Oh, well,
How do you say
manga.
it? Manga?
Manga.
She's a
Yes.
huge fan.
This
So
is the manga shipping world that I know nothing about.
Oh, well, so this is actually for Avatar: The Last Airbender, which isn't an anime, but it's very anime influenced.
Yes.
So there's a lot of crossover.
Yeah. I mean, it was that one episode. There's one episode where Katara and Zuko are in a cave, and she was going to heal him with this like special water, and you're like, oh, she's going to like heal his scar, but then something bad happened. So like, but ever since that episode, people were like,
well, I don't know. This is getting into a tangent, but for me, it was like the first season when Zuko like took her water tribe necklace. Like, I forgot what episode that was, but from that point on, I think I was like hardcore rooting for them for like years.
Well, then they even ended up that way. Like the last episode, they go together to go against Azula, and you're like,
I know.
Oh my gosh, you two are nerding out.
Oh yeah.
What happens on Comic Book Women? We just
all I know about Avatar is my daughter named her recent dog Appa.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's so cute. I actually know that character.
Aww.
Oh yeah, for Christmas. I got them Appa socks and a big Appa pillow for the Appa dog to sit on the Appa pillow.
Nice.
Oh, so
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
Did you feel like it was like a huge compliment as him asking you for the prince? Like, how did you feel like at that moment?
I tried to be cool, I guess.
Alice, you're nothing if not cool.
Oh yeah, but I mean, like inside, you're like, oh, there's so many things you want to say, or like,
Or you're like, oh my god.
yeah. And then, I don't know. I just try to think about the business side of it, I guess.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool as a cucumber. All right, so that was a little bit about Alice's background, if you guys weren't familiar. But Lucy, you had a question for Jacob?
Yes, Jacob, what was your first published comic book?
I've had one before the Eighth Immortal, and it was a very long title, Court of the Dead, Shadows of the Underworld, from Sideshow Collectibles and Insight Editions. It was a original graphic novel. I think it's about like 100 pages. It's this really crazy dark fantasy world that Sideshow has put out, and I was honored that they chose me to write their first compiled graphic novel for the property.
Oh my goodness. You know what? The girl, I remember seeing that booty. It was
Wait, the booty, the Gethsemane booty, or
like it's just the way she is. I remember that her, she was at the comic book store where I used to work at. They had her, and right now it just clicked. I'm like, wait a minute. You said Sideshow, and I'm like, oh, that is her. Okay.
They put out a bunch of statues. I mean, that, Sideshow is primarily a collectible company. And so they started off this property making a bunch of just awesome statues. And that's how I learned about it, was at Comic-Con in 2015 when they first made their big display. They had this big hallway they set up at their giant booth. And it was just like all these haunting, macabre, and yet like just beautiful. Like I love how they took this really grotesque stuff. I mean, you had like, zombie-esque characters with their entrails pouring out next to these really beautiful Valkyrie women. And everything just was so harmonious. And it was just so great how they took that like disgust and beauty and merged them together just without shame. And I just fell in love with it immediately. And so I just started harassing them to let me write it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, that is so cool.
I have not read this one, but the cover is enticing. I'm sitting there thinking, okay, where can I find this? I'm guessing it has to be on eBay, right?
Probably.
It's not. I think they're still selling it through the Sideshow website. You can. I mean, it was published through Diamond. Normal comic distribution outlets. It was in Barnes and Noble for a while. I think they might still have it on their website too. It's on Amazon. The distribution was really, really great for it. I was really pleased. I got to say, please judge this book by its cover, because the cover is awesome. I can't promise you it gets any better on the inside, but the cover is primo.
Yeah, it sounds like it could be a show, like, one of those Netflix originals or something like that. That would be cool.
Yeah, I mean, they've done a lot with it. They've got another graphic novel. They haven't. I don't know if they've. I know that they've teased it, but there's going to be more graphic novels. They've put out a lot of other web comics, and they're just constantly. There's a board game coming out for it, or they did a Kickstarter for a board game. So it's a pretty all-encompassing property. They've got 1/6 scale figures that they've made, and I think through a company called Frison, if I remember correctly, that does a lot of that kind of stuff. And then obviously statues. I mean, the world is pretty expansive.
That's
Right.
awesome.
There's so much. So this one was your first published comic. So do you feel like that's kind of gave you I want to say like maybe like an outline or a floor plan on how you're going to approach future projects? Like, do you understand now what the process is and how much hours go into doing this type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely learned a lot on that book.
Right?
It wasn't the first comic I had written. It was the first comic I got published. But, Eighth Immortal was actually the first draft of which was the first comic that I wrote. It was the first, like, kind of test thing when I just decided, let me see if I can write a comic book. And, which is basically how it happened, because I mostly had written in other mediums beforehand. So, yeah, doing this process, and it was an interesting process because I didn't actually ever, I worked with the people at Sideshow, and so I worked with them, went over the story. I think we spent a year writing it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a long process. It kind of snowballed. It started off, they threw a project at me, hey, write a couple of little, one-shots for a couple of our characters. And then I thought, well, why don't all these one-shots have a through line through them? Why not? And then they liked that idea. And then it just kind of grew and grew and grew until they finally said, hey, we like this enough. We're going to turn this into a full graphic novel. And, my head started to spin, and then we were off to the races. But a lot of drafts, a lot of editing. And then I handed off the scripts. And then they took away, and they have this amazing artist, Ivan Kuritarev, whose name I sadly always mispronounce. But yeah, amazing artist. And he did like everything in the book other than the lettering. I think he had some help with the colors here and there, but like almost everything you see in that book. And if you flip through it, it's just, I mean, what's that word, like phantasmagorical? It's
That's a word?
I think so.
Phantasmagorical?
Phantasmagorical. It's either a real word or something that I used to say in high school that just stuck around. And
let's make it a word.
Now.
Jacob, you brought it up, so let's talk the Eighth Immortal. This is a perfect segue. Can you give us a brief description about what this book is about without giving away any spoilers?
Oh God, I hate that question.
No pressure.
It's primarily about a group of 7 immortals whose goal it is to make sure that there never becomes an 8th immortal for reasons. It's a book largely about loss and trauma and what that does to the psyche, and how that degrades over time.
That was pretty good. You didn't give away too much, but you gave the premise of it, that you have these immortals that are born and they can't go beyond the number 7 for reasons unknown.
For reasons unknown.
Yeah, you know what? This one, before I knew you guys were coming to the show, I already had it on my pickup list.
Oh, really?
Because, yes, I'm not kidding. Like I saw because I love independent comics, and this one, the cover, it just kind of like. I'm like, what is this? It looks. I love more of the dark side of the stories, more creepy. And this one, it just kind of catch my eye right away. And I was kind of reading what it was about, and I was like, oh my God, I need to pick this up. I need to have this book. And then later on,
awesome.
When Laura told me that you guys were coming, I was like, oh my God, I have this on my pickup list. That is so cool.
Yay, the system works.
Yeah. Yes. Well, so the covers are the color cover is done by Tiffany Terrell. And I'm not really sure how Jacob found her, but he did.
The same way I found you, Alice. I was doing a convention.
Okay.
That's like I said, I came to comics kind of like in a roundabout way, so I didn't have any contacts, and I wrote this thing and I had no idea what to do with it. And the book with Sideshow was all in-house, and I never worked directly with the artists. So I just had I had nowhere to go with it, and I didn't even know what I wanted this book to look like. And I was walking through Long Beach Comic Con in 2017, Alice, and I just saw Alice's booth, and like literally the thought, I looked at her art. She had this picture I have in the other room. I bought it for my wife, of a ballerina in like on lily pads. And the image was so striking. And this whole time I wasn't even necessarily looking, but just in the back of my head, I'm like, God, I got to find an artist for this book, but I don't know what the book looks like. I'd have friends send me Instagrams of artists. Do you like this? I'm like, that's a great artist, but I don't think it looks right for this book. And I saw Alice's booth and I went, that's what this book looks like. I have to talk to this woman.
That's awesome.
And I was lucky enough that Alice was willing to talk to this random stranger who approached her at a convention.
Yeah, you guys went into my question, like, how do you guys get about developing the interior? And did you and Jacob, like, did you guys generate ideas or what? That was my question. So you kind of answered a little bit of it.
Yeah, well, I guess a lot of once in a while I do get writers asking me if I want to collaborate with them on a comic, but it's like they don't always have a whole script or anything, or they may just have an idea, or they have characters. But like Jacob had everything. he had everything like basically already like written out, and I read his script. I thought, okay, it's really interesting, because I like the idea of immortals just in general. And he was saying that like the particular print that he bought, like the girl that I drew looked just like the main character. So I was thinking, okay, if it's this aesthetic, like I wouldn't mind drawing 100 pages of it or so. And also another thing that got me interested was that he mentioned he wanted to do like a selective color thing. And I like the idea because for one, full color comics is like a whole ton of work. And like I've done some like short one-shot comics before, and they're pretty much never full color. Like, yeah, I don't have, I for me, the thought of like fully coloring a comic makes me not really want to start it. So I'm glad that like this was like kind of a compromise, but also I think like we're doing something with it where the colors are informing the reader of like the mood and atmosphere and what's important in each scene.
Like the eyes.
Yeah.
Well, I think the eyes are where it started, Alice.
Oh yes.
I'm trying to remember, and someone else asked me this question, like, where did you guys get the idea for the color palette? Because to be honest, that's one of the things that most people have been keying in on, and it's so interesting because, I remember you saying that you'd love to draw it, but you didn't know about doing full colors, and I said that's fine, but the eyes are really important. Like, we show that eyes change and by color, and so we need to at least have the eyes, and you were down with that, and I think it just kind of snowballed from there, right?
Right. Yeah.
And cool, that's turned out to something that was just kind of practical at first, has really become a really interesting design choice. And, I know we should probably say that, we intended this from the beginning, but,
Right.
Yeah, like I was telling you, like I read the cover, right? And then when I was reading the preview, because they should give you a little bit of a preview, and that's what I really like, that it's like a manga. And like the way it looks, and then the colors, because usually manga it's like just black and white, right? But I like that they had just a hint of color. And last week we talked about it on our show, Laura. I remember you were asking about the colors and stuff like that, and I thought, I was like, oh, this is perfect. Laura, she likes a little bit of color too.
I get turned off to just black and white. To me, that's just so visually like exhausting that I need some splashes of color in there to kind of help guide the story along. And your color usage is very strategic. Like what Jacob was saying, you purposefully use color, not just to fill a panel, but to express what was happening in that scene. I read the full the full thing. I got a sneak peek, guys. Don't be jealous.
I didn't know if I could say, so that's why I was like, oh, I can read the preview.
We got a preview. And this book it's very, very well done. But Jen, did you want to ask Alice anything about like the internal panels, about some of the scenes or anything?
Well, I mean, okay. So if there's any like younger or parents who are like, oh, this looks like a cool book, I'll get my kid. I would probably say don't buy it for your kid. I would say like 15, 16 and older.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds about right to me.
Right? Like, but I mean, I thought it was really well done. Like, like you were all saying about the color and like, because that's one of the reasons why I didn't initially read Walking Dead, is because I flicked through it and I was like, eh. And then like with this, like from the get-go, I'm like, oh, this is interesting, and it just keeps you going. Like, but when you guys came up with some of these panels, like I love how, especially like on the we're seeing right now, how like you don't do the like where's this like I can't point. I wish I could.
It's right there.
So,
right there.
On my screen.
Like I is there a way that you come up with like when do you know? I don't know how to ask this question. When do you know to like do not typical?
Oh, like how do I decide how the paneling kind of?
Yeah.
Well, actually, Jacob is pretty specific in his script about his paneling. Like, you know, he'll say panel 1 is this, panel 2 is this, and then if he really, I mean, it varies, but like for example, the left-hand page that we're looking at, like the top 4 panels, he wanted them exactly like that. And I remember like I tried to kind of like I remember some of my earlier sketches were a different layout, and he's like, no, like I need the 4 panels like this. But then like on this page on the right, I think I actually don't really remember, but I think my rough sketches looked really similar to it, so I didn't change much. And I guess like because I know that because I do my layouts in 2-page spreads, and wait, these aren't the pages that go.
They don't go together. No, I purposely chopped them up because I didn't want to give too much of the book away. So I kind of like, yeah, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. I was just realizing because then I was saying like because I work in 2-page spreads, and then so like for example, if this had been the left side page, then it would like then I imagine that the right side would be like more dynamic, since the left side is a bit more square. So I think of like how I want to draw the reader's eyes from like the left side to the bottom, and then to the top right and to the bottom right. So that's like something
that's so cool, Alice.
I'm keeping in my mind.
Cool.
Yeah, Alice does a really great job with this stuff. I mean, I definitely am guilty of being pretty specific, but I also want Alice to contribute as much as and to flex her own creativity. And Alice will often add in panels or take away panels as she sees fit. Like I know the page on the right we're looking at now. It wasn't my idea to put a close-up in there, but Alice wanted to put the close-up in. So she'll often heighten moments that she feels need just a little extra bit of punch. And, then there are certain scenes where it's important to me that, like, the example she said on the left there, that it's a progression of the same basic image, and a lot of that comes from my film background, which is where I primarily work in TV. And I didn't go to school for comics. I went to school for film and everything. So
you're seeing this as a storyboard.
Yeah. So kind of always directing on the page in my mind a little bit. And one of the things that drew me to writing comics in the first place was every time I wrote a screenplay, people would say, "You're directing on the page too much." Well, where can I do that without anyone yelling at me?
Comics.
Yeah.
Comics. And again, you found a partner here that it seems like that's kind of what we're trying to discuss here and illuminate to people that are watching, that the author and the interior artist kind of have to be on the same page and work together as a team.
It's a lot of back and forth. Yeah. And
right.
Alice and I have developed a nice workflow I really love.
It kind of reminds me a bit of like the Marvel method, right? How the artist and the writer like really do work together. I feel like sometimes people just get really, here's the story, go, and then the artist does like what, you know. But like when you guys collaborate, that's where you, that's really cool.
Yeah, the Marvel method, I haven't done that exactly yet. It's
a mixture.
My understanding is they work with the editors a lot, and I heard someone say that like they don't write the dialogue first. Like they just kind of write out the scenes, and then they let the artist figure out the flow of the scenes, and then they add the dialogue back in.
Yeah, that's what like Stanley would tell the artist, like here, this is what I want the story to be about. And then it's like, okay, I'll go. But you guys have like a cool like mixture, and like that I think is that's really unique. Yeah,
and it'll be interesting. We're fighting a bit of a deadline, and so we're going a little off script on our last issue, where I think the script I just gave Alice, I said, I don't know what the dialogue is for most of this.
Good luck. Nice.
Well, yeah, like I mean, in terms of that, like. Usually, I remember actually every issue has been like the workflow has been evolving or devolving. I don't know, like maybe. But I remember in the first issue, like I was very conscious of every line of dialogue, and like I would draw preemptive bubbles and stuff like that. And eventually, I just like didn't really. I mean, I cared. Like, I read it, you know? I know what they're saying. I know what's going on. But if I like keep the dialogue in my mind too much, like I felt like it restricted me a bit in how the story was being told visually. So I think from the second issue, I stopped drawing like space for bubbles, and I just I was just going by the descriptions. But like thankfully we have a really great letterer who's helping us out with all of that.
Well, and I noticed that you were doing that, and so starting there, I started doing another pass and then refining and changing the dialogue to fit your art.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, cool.
That's so incredible how everything is just constantly evolving based on what one of you is putting out and what one of you is seeing from the other. That's so cool. I hope that you guys that are watching out there can appreciate the process that goes into these books. Their artwork. This is all.
Like people say, comics are very simple and easy, just a breeze.
Yeah, I mean, like I could give. Do you want like a really rough like overview of how we
yes, please
draw or create like one issue?
Yeah.
So basically Jacob will send me the script, and then I do a really rough layout pass. So I go through and I draw the boxes, and then I kind of sketch out the person, like are they on the left side, the right side? And I try to like get an idea of how I want the shape of like where the eye is going per page. And then also like the program I use is called Clip Studio Paint, and I can look at all the pages at the same time, and like I really like zoom out and try to see like, okay, this section here of like 4 pages or something is the most like exciting part, so we want the panels to be bigger and like have more contrast and stuff like that. And I'm thinking about that in the really rough layout process. And then I send that to Jacob. He will go through, and he's pretty thorough, and I'm very glad that he can decipher my sketches. They're pretty rough in the beginning. So he'll tell me like, oh, in this particular scene, I really want the 2 characters to face a certain way, or like I want a certain angle. So it's he'll tell me exactly what he wants if there's like an issue for certain parts. But usually he's like very accepting of my interpretation. And then
your book too.
Oh yeah, true. And then I do the like what is essentially, well, okay, I don't really do a pencil pass. I would say I just go straight into inking, and then I do I do all the inking, and then I send that to Jacob again, and then he might have a couple of more revisions. Because between the really rough sketch and then the finalized line art, it could look different, or the expressions definitely like it's different once it's the final line art.
God, that sounds
And
so
then
complicated. You're
like
making
when
it.
I write like 4 different, like 3 paragraphs about what one face looks like.
Oh my gosh! Like I'm sitting here, like
yeah.
it sounds like this and this, but there's like 18 steps in between where you
Oh.
start and you finish.
Yeah, and then I started compiling, Jacob, all your notes in like a separate like Word doc.
Oh no.
Wow, Jacob.
You can just call me a tyrant. Just
Yeah, so yeah, it's pretty long.
Major pain. I'm very long-winded, okay?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Well, you're just particular.
A little particular.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. That's a good way of putting it.
Sure.
yeah, I would say there's advantages and disadvantages to like how particular a writer is, because I've worked with writers that kind of let me do whatever, but like a writer that like Jacob, who has a really clear vision, it's also fun to explore and like see how you can make that come to life.
How'd she do, Jacob?
I mean, I'm just like completely in love with everything. It's sorry, I do not want Microsoft updates ever.
Oh yeah.
So, what was I gonna say?
You're really happy with her art.
Yeah, and I've been evolving throughout the process with Alice too, and I know I'm a particular person, and I do often have a really specific idea, because that's also just the way I write. But collaboration is one of my favorite things, and even though I can be very forceful and effusive in what the vision I see, but I always also want to be challenged, because I also never trust myself. Like I'm never quite sure that what I'm doing is right or the right direction, but it's got to start somewhere, and so I try and be as specific as possible in what the intention is, and then Alice will come up with stuff that then shifts me in a different direction because of what she thinks, and it's just kind of the way that. I like working with people who are adaptable, but also are unafraid to put forth their own ideas. And trying to find that balance can be really tough, because, a lot of people, if you're too specific, I've noticed that can shut them down. They feel too stifled, and they're like, well, I have nothing to contribute here. So, just tell me what you want and I'll just do that. And then people just become button pushers or something.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
I'm not button pushers for art, but, like in editing or other things, and then
you lucked out that.
Yeah.
That synergy, and you guys created something amazing together.
And like you said, it's evolving all the time, I mean, we'll still be learning about each other by the time we finish this.
Very, very cool. Before we let you guys go, I know we're kind of running a little over here, but before we let you guys go, Alice, we wanted to ask you about your Pride and Prejudice adaptation that you're doing.
Oh, yes. So this was something that I've been working on since I think 2016. So back when I first left a game company, and this is just like my own project, and I obviously I really like Jane Austen and Pride and Prejudice, and when I was looking for comic adaptations, since I like reading that kind of thing, and I think around that time, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies came out, and that was right. That it was cute, and
it was different. It was different.
Yeah, and there was the movie with Keira Knightley. And I think just seeing different interpretations of it, it made me want to try making my own. And oh yes, I think Marvel did one. So I think I read the Marvel adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. And I don't know, it was okay.
Is it Pride and Prejudice with mutant powers?
No. It was a very like straight adaptation, but in my opinion, it was like way too literal. I don't even think they edited the text much. They kind of just like dropped paragraphs. Okay, I feel like I'm like, I'm like
That makes sense. Sometimes you do
Coming
see
hard
that.
at Marvel.
yeah, so like the art was very pretty, but they kind of just dropped like paragraphs from the book like straight into text bubbles. And I felt like it wasn't really like a comic adaptation. It wasn't taking advantage of of the medium to present the story. So I just decided to and I've always like sketched the characters for fun. Like I like to design characters from books just like in general. Like when I read a book I like. So that's just my personal thing. And volume 1, which has around 200 pages, like I just once I had enough pages to make the first volume, I just like printed some copies and started like selling them on my own. So
Do it. That's fantastic. So if anybody's interested in finding kind of your progress, they go to Yumi Darling.
Yes, you can go to yumedarling.com. It has a link to my Etsy. So on my Etsy, I have the book for sale. Like, and or I don't know, you could email me. I'll send you one.
Hey, reach out to her, you guys. In her Etsy shop, you do like keychains. I was kind of shopping / stalking you and going through all your stuff. I'm like, this is amazing.
Oh yeah.
And you do some really, really cool, risque stuff. Okay. Nothing wrong with that. I love it.
Oh yeah. That's like, I guess that's one thing we didn't talk about. Oh, yay! Yes. Oh yes, I have a slight obsession with Legend of Zelda as well.
Oh, and this is the coolest thing because like it's a 3D cutout, but it's got a base.
What?
It's got a base that's Dark Link.
Producer, make Jacob the big.
And then Link stands on top of him in his shadow, and so
it's cool.
It's really cool. It's just a little bit opaque, a little bit see-through, so it takes light on really well. It's a cool little desktop.
Oh yeah, badass! Just in time for our Valentine's presents show that we're going to be doing in a couple of weeks here. Cool. Jacob, where can we find if people are wanting to get a hold of the Eighth Immortal? Where do we go? What do we do?
Run, don't walk. Local comic book shops. I mean, that's where all this stuff happens. It's available for pre-order. Still on the publisher's website, the publisher SourcePoint Press, who's been awesome to work with. Their site, their parent company is called Oxeye Media, so that's the website where you can get it directly from the publisher, and they also give free PDFs of the first issue, so you can check it out, test it out, and then decide, hey, this book would look much better in my actual greedy, grubby hands. And then, it's through Diamond. The code, I don't know if does this chat come up or do I need to say this?
Jen has it, I think. Jen, what's the code?
NOV
201521. So if you just give that to your LCS.
We'll be able to get it. You can Google it. It'll pop up on different if you don't want to run out in the middle of a pandemic to a comic book store either. But you can call them. Phones exist. Issues 1 through 3 are available to order still. Issue 4 is going up for pre-order in the next issue of the next catalog of previews. So in about 2 weeks. And they'll be coming out monthly. The first one drops on January 27th, and then every last Wednesday of the month until we get all 4 out.
What do you think, girls? Are we sold?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. You guys, anybody out there watching, make sure that you pick this one up. I think all 3 of us have read issue 1 and it's fantastic. The storyline. Oh, it's so good. And Alice, the way that you depict the story with your artwork is perfect. Honestly, I can't even try to imagine a better pairing than the two of you.
So we've gotten a couple of reviews, and they've been really positive, but there's been a consistent through line that like the art is really what sells this book. It's amazing. Writing, we'll see what happens. You know what? I'm on board. If you pick up this book just for Alice, you made a good.
Get it together. Get it together.
Hey, when you're flying at the backs of Titans, only climb so far.
No, I think the story really like. I don't know. I don't want to spoil, but it has a really good conclusion. Conclusion. Okay.
Yeah, you like it? I just sent it to Alice like 2 days ago. You happy?
So yeah.
Okay, good.
All right. Very nice. Well, thank you guys so much for coming out. We sincerely appreciate it. Hopefully, we'll be able to convince you guys to come back as the story progresses so we can keep reviewing and letting people out there know that the Eighth Immortal is not one that you want to pass on. You want to pick this up while you can. It's fantastic. Thank you guys so much for coming out. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I didn't even ask you any questions.
What do you want to ask? Go ahead.
Oh, who are you people?
You don't even know. Just kidding.
I don't know.
I'm kidding. Like I always feel awkward. Like at the end of interviews, I'm like, God, I just did all this talking and I was so rude. I didn't ask any questions about them. Like
nobody cares about us. Nobody cares.
You know?
They know who we are. All that matters is that you two produced an amazing book and you need to get your asses to the store and pick this thing up. All right. Have a great night, you guys. Thank you so much for joining Comic Book Women. Be sure to find Alice at Yumi Darling on Instagram. And Jacob, what was your handle?
Surlier Than Thou.
Surlier Than Thou on Instagram. Follow both of them.
Instagram and Twitter if you just want to hear me yell about hockey a lot.
Nice. Sounds good. Have a great night, guys. We are out. Quick shout out to our sponsors over at Bird City Comics. Head over to their website for an additional 15% off your entire order when you use code CBW15. Back to the show. All right, guys, we are on to segment 2. As I mentioned at the beginning, we are doing a spotlight for birthday girl, Jenny Frison. Yay. Yay. I know, right? She's amazing. So, Lucy, I know you're a huge fan of her stuff. Why is she important to you?
Well, not only because she's extremely talented,
right?
I think it just, you know, like she's such a beautiful woman, and I oh my God, I can say so much about her. Like every cover she does, it's just on point, you know, like I don't think I ever seen a cover that it's like, oh, there's better ones, you know. I just love every cover and I need every cover, whatever she does, you know.
And you're a huge Wonder Woman fan, right?
Yes, yeah. And that's how I fell in love with her art, actually. When she started doing Wonder Woman, I was like, oh my God, this is beautiful. Like I just, you know, again, at the time I was kind of new to the comics and stuff like that. So I just, I started picking up everything that she was coming with, you know, every cover that it's like I need it, and
I need this in my life.
I need this. And a lot of the times, like I end up with doubles, and because I just love this so much, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't need doubles, right? I need to take it easy. But yeah, I just love, like, I just feel like she should be getting more love in the community more. I know everybody loves her, but I just feel like she doesn't get that much love that she deserves.
Well, she started with Wonder Woman in that huge contract, but now she's signed on to this incredible contract with Boom Studios. She's taking over Something Is Killing the Children. You think Something Is Killing the Children, you think Jenny Frison, right? Mm-hmm. Jen, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so Jenny Frison, it's interesting to see artists when they first really burst on scene and people are like, wow, this person's awesome. Because she did have it a couple years ago where she was like the it artist. But like, I feel like after some time, like but her stuff has been getting better and better and better and better and better. Whereas in other artists who've, you know, popped onto the scene, like it's like a year or two, but she's always like right there in that background, especially, with Something's Killing Children. Like, man, she's just so talented. She's just,
So the girls and I had the incredible challenge of trying to pick our favorites. We're like, okay, we have enough time to maybe each of us highlight one cover that we really just are drawn to, even though they're all stunning. And if we had it our way, we would pick every single one.
Just a quick reminder, make sure you subscribe, leave us a comment, give us a thumbs up, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess that's like that's true. That's like the first one that I was just kind of, but I like it because it looks creepy.
What do you think she was going for here?
Well, it's a creepy Wizard of Oz.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess she nailed it in that sense. When I looked at this one, I would not have thought Jenny Frison looking at this cover.
Well, it was her first commissioned piece, right? Her first like breaking onto the scene, but with publishing, it kind of like technically the Voltron came out first, and then this one came out. But
yeah, the Voltron, she said she got that because she didn't screw up / so she got that commission kind of off of the first one. But these, technically Hack and Slash was her first hired job, and then she moved on to Voltron. Voltron, I think, looks more like her. What do you think, Lucy?
Yeah, sorry.
You're fine. Jen, what do you think on Voltron?
I love this cover. I have never found it in a back issue bin as of yet.
Yeah, I never seen it.
I was talking to Anthony about that too, and you can't find either of these, it seems like.
I mean, I'm sure some comic book store in the middle of nowhere has them. Just got to keep digging.
That's the key there, right? Digging.
Have patience. Oh, geez.
And then you guys can see the picture of her there, which is what Lucy was talking about. She's like stunning. On the outside, she's just like, she reminds me of Natalie Saunders, sorry. Natalie Saunders, she has that same physical beauty that matches what she does in her artwork. And she said that she actually uses herself as a reference for a lot of her artwork. How cool is that? You just stare in the mirror and you turn yourself into Catwoman.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's one of the few artists that every year she goes to see 2E2, and she just seems like she's talented. And then from far away, I'm like, oh, she seems so cool. And then they're like, oh, go talk to her, go buy some of her stuff from the table. And then every year I'm like, and I don't get starstruck. Like I've met a lot of people. I've seen a lot of different people. Like I got to meet Anderson Silva, the fighter. Like I got starstruck with him too. But like few people that I've met in my life where I'm like, I feel it. And yeah, she's one of the people where I'm like, I would like to one day, just not ready yet.
Oh, you need to build that confidence. So cute.
We'll be your wing women. Lucy and I will go on each side of you, and we'll just charge up to Jenny and be like, meet our girl Jen.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Awkward.
We'll start a conversation. Don't worry. We'll start a conversation, and you'll ease, into the conversation. Well, don't worry, we got you.
The thing is, like, there's like my big goal is to get a commission from her someday. But I heard through the grapevine that like she doesn't really do that as much anymore. Which I mean, she's almost always busy, and it's understandable. But like my dream, Kanan #1, the blank cover, is to have her do a Sabine run. I think she would do a cool job doing that.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like, imagine how many like requests that she gets that she probably has to kind of like put a limit to it.
Yeah, she has to kind of bide her time. I know that there's a signing going with her right now. I'll have to find out who the group was. But somebody's.
Yeah.
Did you hear about this too?
Yeah, I saw a post on Instagram. Oh my god, it was a store. I'll look for it.
I'll find it too. There's something going on right now where you have until March 1st if you want to have her sign something. You can mail it into this group. I'll get some more details for you. But all right, so let's get moving on to the next part. I thought that it would be prudent for us to talk a little bit about where she got her inspiration for her artwork. So Alphonse Mucha. And no, I am not pronouncing that wrong. Contrary to popular belief, it is pronounced Mucha, not Mucha, was one of the big artists that she drew inspiration from. He is a Czech artist that was very prominent during the Art Nouveau movement. Are you guys familiar with that?
I'm not.
God, I'm nerding out here. I told you guys, art is my thing. He was a painter, an illustrator, a graphic artist, and he was known predominantly, for his posters that he did. So the Art Nouveau movement, this took place between, I think, like 1890 to 1910. This is where you saw a lot of decorative ornamental type artwork. You saw flowing lines and patterns with the flowers and the leaves. And she said in multiple interviews that a lot of her artwork was drawn from him. that she's kind of taken a lot of inspiration from him. So I put up on the left, you can see here one of Frison's pieces.
I can see the similarities.
Right? Don't you start to look at her stuff differently? Because aside from the flowing lines, you look at the use of the same art palettes. You're using that sunset orange and those reds and the yellows.
Warm cut. Yeah, it's a warm tone.
Exactly. Very, very warm. And so I put up one of his paintings versus hers. And the background of this slide, too, is another.
I love it. I love it. And then you know what? Right now that you're just saying it, I just realized I always am more into the whole, like the warm tones, even like with photos and stuff like that. Like, I like that warm and, you know, better. So I think that's why that's another thing that kind of, I feel like it kind of draws like towards her stuff, you know?
Yeah, it creates kind of a sense of warm intimacy in a weird way. Even though it's just a piece of artwork, you're still like, okay, I feel that. What do you think, Jen?
Go ahead, Jen.
I was just gonna say, like, I didn't know that about her, so that's a really cool, interesting fact. But then also, like, when she goes like really dark, and like, there's that one Wonder Woman cover where it's just her face and then, like,
59,
the black dot, yeah, and you're just like, whoa,
The Witching Hour. Right?
Huh?
The Witching Hour, the one that she
Yes.
did?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, she does a great job with that. Like, she's really talented.
See, like this one, I was gonna say, like this one right here, you could see like for a second, if you just look at her face, like the hair and everything, you kind of forget that she is actually Wonder Woman. You know, like just looking at it right now, it's like,
what does it look like to you, Lucy?
it looks like a freaking saint.
A
like
saint
that you will hang on your, like, you're gonna pray to it.
Have a candle of this, you know, on your mantle.
Yeah. Protect me, Wonder Woman.
It's true. You look at this, you're like, okay, this isn't just a comic book character. This is something. But again, so much of her style is rooted in this art movement that started over 100 years ago. And it makes you really look at her stuff through a different lens, if you can think of it from an artistic point of view. And then you have Alphonse over there just staring at her stuff. I think he's approving. What do you think?
Probably. I think so.
I think you'd be happy with this. Yeah. And that's the other thing. You guys know how many of her covers have like a pattern of roses kind of framing the face, and how often she uses floral and leaf patterns. Again, all goes back to the Nouveau movement.
Fun fact. Nice. I love it.
Kind of interesting. I'm nerding out here. I told you guys I'm really into art. This stuff is fascinating to me, how something can last decades and centuries, and that style is still translated into modern projects. Yeah. Anyway. All right. So now we're going to move on to our picks. Lucy, you're up first.
Oh, I love this one. I mean, I love how you did this. Like, you can see the transition, you know, and even before color, you could just tell already how beautiful it is, you know, like, I just love this cover. There's so many that I love, you know, and like you said, it's really hard, really, really hard just to pick one. And I picked this one because this one right now is my screensaver. I had to take a picture, and yeah, this is, I just love the dark colors, but then the red, the way it pops. So it's just such a beautiful cover.
No, it is. It's gorgeous. And I was trying to purposely show here the process. Jen, what do you think of that?
I really like that. And I think I've seen it a couple times where she actually will sell these pieces. And like, oh man, it'd be like either she sells she sells the pieces, but then you can get like a copy of it as a poster. I think they're around $50 usually at Comic Cons. Like, but every time I see one of these, I'm like, oh man, it's so beautiful, especially in person.
I can only imagine.
Have you seen one of her OAs in person? Ooh.
She has them up. That's the thing, is that like I get up enough courage to get close to the table, and people are always like talking to her, and I'll be flipping through like she has her stuff out, and then like I see the price, and I'm like, oh god, I gotta save up. Like, but then when it's like my turn, I just kind of walk. I just keep walking. I'm like, oop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jen, come on, you got to approach that table.
One
Find
day.
that Lucy braveness and just approach it. Come on, pretend we're with you.
Yes. Just how do you use your inner Lucy?
Channel it and approach her. Yeah, I saw one on eBay. There was an eBay pricing for her OA, which I think was close to $2,000. If you wanted like just a sketch version of something she was doing. So she's definitely pulling that audience. But let's talk about the process here. So you start with the digital. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm old fashioned, but digital to me has always just seemed like, if you're good enough with a computer, you can do that. And I'm going to get so much shit for this, but I've never really been that drawn to people that use a lot of the digital stuff, because I feel like it's kind of cheating, right? And so I'm like, okay, great. But then you look at her outline here and you're like, okay, better. And then she moves on to her sketches. And that's where you can see that this woman has a multifaceted talent. She's not just a digital, artist. Yeah, she can go across all the different realms. And her sketches here, again, now that we did a little bit of homework, you can see where she is using so much of that inspiration in the, what do you call that, cape?
Yeah.
The cape. She's using those flowing lines that are very indicative of the same thing that Muha would have used in his stuff. And then once she adds the color, like Lucy was saying, you add those pops of red and suddenly your eye's drawn to certain focal points and it creates this incredibly powerful piece. And what better person to illustrate Wonder Woman, who's, she's feminine, but powerful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if I worded that right.
No, you worded it great.
Yes, you agree.
I told you guys, I nerd out over art. So I watch this process of what she's doing and it's like, holy hell, no wonder Lucy picks this. Because then look at the final image. She's looking off like she can conquer anything.
Oh yeah, she looks like a badass. She will kick your ass.
Oh, I understand why this is your spirit animal, Lucy. This is you embodied into a comic book character. I see it so well.
Oh,
and
say something. She's like,
after a truth, I got my sword, I got my shield, bring it.
Yep. There you go.
Anything to add?
I agree with you when it comes to digital. Like for a really long time, I was just like, I rather pencils, inks, right? Like old school. But recently when I've been trying to like play with it, I'm like, oh, this is actually really hard. But I will say that there's artists who still take people's images and then just like mess with it a little bit. That I still am like, okay, that's not fair. Because you're using the groundwork of someone else's art to like mix stuff up.
Are we talking about somebody specific?
Yeah, who are you referring to there, Jen?
I don't want to get into it right now, but I think there's at least two people that come to mind this past year that kind of got in trouble a little bit in 2020.
You guys can do your research there, figure out who she's talking about, because she's not going to tell.
But yeah, no, I agree with you guys too. Like, and I was going to say that too. Like, at the beginning, when I was seeing people like, they do everything like, digital, but I'm like thinking like, again, like you guys, it's kind of like, I guess, cheating, but then seeing now Instagram makes it so in social media makes it so much easier when they go live or they just record and they're showing you their progress. And I'm like, oh shoot, that seems pretty hard because little thing, you can just mess up, and kind of have to go back and I guess it's difficult. It's how would you say, like you have to have
like an acquired skill. Like it's still a skill.
Yeah, you have to have a skill to be able to do. I know I wouldn't be able. I'm not even good with pencil and paper. Imagine freaking now. Yeah.
Quick shout out to our sponsors over at Bird City Comics. Head over to their website for an additional 15% off your entire order when you use code CBW15. Back to the show. All right, so Jen, this was your pick. You chose Serenity, which Firefly was one of my favorites. But go ahead, talk. What do you have to say about this one?
So yeah, I love Firefly, the TV series, and Serenity the movie. This comic is a Comic-Con exclusive, I think from 2014. and I love Inara. Like, she was a really cool character in that series. And when I found out about this, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like try to hunt this down. And then when I saw the prices, I was like, I'm gonna try to find it in the back issue bin. And to this day, I'm still not successful. But like, I thought she did a great job. I think it's limited to 1,000 copies.
Oh wow.
Okay.
You can see, Laura, again, this one kind of like now that we know about where she gets her inspiration, it reminds me that style again. Yeah.
A+, Lucy. A+ from your art teacher. No, you're right. She did. What parts are you saying? Can you see the similarities?
Well, see the flower right there again, and like the little things, like the way her clothes, the
fabric.
like, the fabric, like how it is, and it kind of runs down the same thing, kind of like Wonder Woman. It's kind of again like the way it has. I see the connections now. Thank you, teacher.
I've changed your views on Jenny Frison. You're going to look at something like, I see flowing lines. Yep. I see a pattern and the coloring and everything. So, Jen, for people who haven't seen Firefly, can you explain why does this cover capture the character?
So, Inara is a companion in our native language would be kind of
she's a prostitute. Let's just say it.
I was gonna say woman of the night.
Oh, I went with the whore, and then Laura went with
Well, wait. Okay. So companions in Firefly are like trained and they're certified. So it's kind of like, is it Switzerland?
How do you get certified in the seduction processes?
Because it talks and okay. Some of the episodes actually kind of delve into it. Like sometimes people just want companion just to like talk to and be around and like feel special, right? It's not always sexual, but sometimes it usually is. But like it's tuning into their client and like trying to figure out what they want without them having to say it. She like it's just a really interesting character because she's trained. She has like a kind of like a guild she has to go back to, and like it just I guess Switzerland, right? You have to have like to get like checks and stuff.
Yeah, I think her role there is to act, like you said, as a companion and interpret the needs of whoever she's with. Yeah. So she can just be going to a ball, which I believe that still happens nowadays, right? Can't you be hired just to like attend a wedding or attend a business event?
Yeah. Well, she has made movies about it, so yeah.
It's not sexual, it's just companionship.
Yeah. And then like it's just and I know like the captain Mel doesn't he likes her, but he looks down on her work. But I mean throughout the series, I think they just did a great job like with her character and like her friendship with the mechanic. Oh shoot.
Oh, I don't remember his name either. I watched the series with Anne. And
the mechanic, the Kaylee with overalls.
Yeah, I think that's right.
It's been a little bit. I gotta rewatch that series now. It's only 14 episodes.
I want to watch.
And then so watch Firefly first. I think it's like 14 episodes, and then it got canceled. But then the fans got so behind this. There's actually a whole fan group called the Browncoats, and they got a movie made. So see the TV series first, and then watch. It's called Serenity. Holy moly, it's beautiful. Like the cinematographer did a great job. So I just feel like seeing this from her, like Jenny just did a great job. I don't know if she watched Firefly or Serenity, but I just felt like when I saw this cover, like she encapsulated this character and that series in this one picture so great. Like, because most likely that's probably on her. So Inara lives on the ship in a shuttle on Firefly or Serenity. Wait. Okay. Yeah. The main ship. Shoot.
She's in like her own little like apartment, I guess is what you would call it. So when she has visitors, Lucy, she's separated from everybody else. I'll put it that way.
So elegant. It's cool. She did a great job.
But Jen, I got to ask you, I'm putting you on the spot here. When you think seduction, it's all in the...
It's in the eyes.
It's in the eyes, which is what she nailed.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the eyes here. She's saying, if you can afford it. Am I right?
I like you, girl.
Yeah. And that's so key. Again, Lucy, you got to watch this. With that character, it's all about seduction, and it's not necessarily sexual seduction. It could even just be, like Jen was saying,
emotionally.
Yeah, exactly. So you have, again, the whole process of how she went about creating this cover. And I love that Jen chose it because it just gives it, you think Jenny Frison, Wonder Woman, which we had to highlight, but here's a different character and she nailed it.
Yep.
Anything to add, girls?
Just beautiful.
I want Lucy to watch that TV series now.
I know.
I'll watch it, girls. I will.
That is your homework. All right, moving on. So the next pick, this was mine. I chose Beauty. I struggled like you guys did with trying to find a cover that I thought expressed my gratitude for her as an artist. This one, I remember we got it when I first started working at Bird City, and I was like, wow, this is gorgeous. And the cover, I'm sorry, I judged the book by its cover. I thought, okay, I'm going to read this shit. What is this book about? Because you look at this and you're like, okay, it's called Beauty, but she has like this smoke or this some type of essence coming out of her eyes, out of her like her arms, her mouth, her nose. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So I read the book. Have you guys read this?
I actually have the first volume. It was given to me. I think it was like one of those Instagram giveaways by one of the guys, and he gave it to me, and I still haven't read it, but I know one of my friends, Chris, he's always talking about this. And for a long time, he kept saying, you guys need to buy this book. You guys need to get this book. Nobody listened to him. And now it's like freaking $100 or something like that.
Oh, yeah. It's difficult to find. I think on eBay, it's like 60 or 70 if you want this specific cover. Yeah, it's pretty, it's up there. It used to be $4, but the premise of this story, you guys are going to love this. So Beauty, it's a sexually transmitted disease. So if you have sex with somebody and they transmit it to you, you wake up and you're beautiful. So now you have this population of beautiful people who are essentially infected by beauty, which causes this division. So you have half the people who aren't infected who hate the beautiful people who are infected. And I don't want to give too much away, but that's the premise of it, is that beauty is an STD. A lot of the people have caught it, and it creates, all things come at a cost, right? So it creates a cost. I'll put it that way. And
but it comes at a terrible cost, right?
Yes. And so this cover is kind of showing. This cover is showing kind of what the cost is. But again, Jenny Frison kicks its ass. Look at this cover. Look at the eyes.
Again, the eyes. It's always the eyes.
It is. Even with what Jen was saying with Wonder Woman 59, it's that haunting use of light. It's that haunting use of dark colors. And here, the way she uses light is incredible to me. You have that lightning effect going down the cheek. The nostrils are inflared. The mouth is spewing out whatever this is. I'm not going to say what it is, but you'll have to read the book. And I don't think anybody could have done this cover better. You could be walking through the bookstore, and if you see this, you're like, oh shit, I want to read that. Right?
Yeah. And she did several copies, right? I mean, several issues
of Beauty
covers. Yeah, I believe so. Let me see, because I think it might be.
Hell, you better tell me if she did. I have this one, luckily, because like I said, when I first started at Bird City, we happened to have this in. It was one of the new books.
I got your address. Yeah. Where do you keep it? I want to say she did.
I'm not telling.
I don't see it. I'm pretty sure she did few covers, like maybe the last ones. But I believe seeing, because I remember when I worked at the store, only one person had this on their pool. That was the first time I heard of this long time ago.
Yeah, this is before she was huge. Jen, what do you think of the difference between the black and white version versus the color?
I mean, I kind of like the color version a tiny bit more, just because it really does like make you hone in on those like certain areas, especially like around her the eyes and the lips. But just the black and white, like it'd be really cool to own. She did a great job. I keep saying that. We need
to find this, Jen. We need to find it.
Jenny, if you're out there and you're watching, Jen's a fan. So You have to kind of call her over.
Hopefully one day we'll have her over. You guys send her messages. Tell her to come to our show.
Start a movement that we want Jenny Frison. Yeah. So anyways, those were the 3 that the girls and I decided to highlight. As we mentioned before at the beginning of the show, there are so many covers here. And we chose to spotlight her because we believe it's her birthday today. If we are wrong, let us know. But we think it's her birthday. If not, it's her birthday month. And she deserves a tribute.
She does.
All right. So anyways, that was it for us for tonight. We will be back next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Bye.
Bye.
Just a quick reminder, make sure you subscribe, leave us a comment, give us a thumbs up, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you.